Hello everybody and welcome back to Juno New Origins, where we're still working on this barge landing. It's a complicated issue, no doubt about it. Now this is the current design, and I was thinking that we might want to change the location of these wings a little bit. Our primary issue, of course, is we're constrained based on the... Hang on, I'm just thinking here. We're constrained based on the width that we can launch this. But what if we were to make an actual plane and just fly over with a plane? That's an option. I want to see how this thing flies. I think it's not going to be too much better than what we had last time, but I want to see how that goes. And we would have to remember we'd have to launch from the village runway if we were going to do it with an actual plane. So that is understood. It's too wide for the selected launch location. It's exactly the limit width. Okay, so we're gonna have to drop the width of these by one segment here. This is not... Oh, this is grabbing the control surface. I didn't realize we could grab the control surface. That's interesting. Okay, so with that in mind, that should now work. In theory. So, let's see how this goes, and I'm going to speed through this. I don't actually expect this to work all that well. We could go the plane route, but I want to see if this will, you know, be able to angle up. It would certainly be interesting, but we may well go the plane route. We'll see. For the time being, I want to put this at about 60-degree pitch and throttle up, and off we go. We're going to go on 2x time acceleration. So we're just going to burn right on through this lower atmosphere and push our apoapsis right on up. We have to go suborbital, and that is definitely exactly what we're going to do. Now, if I remember correctly, we actually determined that this should be at 75, not 76. So I'm going to adjust that heading a little bit here, and that should be fine. Okay, so our apoapsis is reasonably high right now. I want to drop us down to a pitch of about 10 degrees. There we go. Excellent. And we're just going to burn out over this way, maybe at a pitch of about 5 degrees right now. Now at a pitch of about 0. We're going to burn here until the apoapsis is high enough. And then the question is simply, do we have enough speed? So that's enough altitude. And as far as the speed to the center of the drone ship goes, we're just going to do something kind of like that. Okay, so we're going to have some drag, and the drone ship is going to rotate. So we are definitely going to be overshooting this a little bit, but by the time we get there, we're going to be undershooting it, I suspect. The question is this craft capable of nosing up? And I want to have us be entering somewhere around here or so in terms of attitude, so that nose up is actually up. That would be a useful thing, for sure. Okay, so let's continue to warp forward here. We are not going to exit the atmosphere. We're just going through at maximum speed. And we're going to try to hold attitude here and not have this thing nose down, ideally. Somehow I suspect that's not going to work. And actually, we know that we're going to need to slow down, aren't we? Because the wings are going to blow up if we re-enter in this form. So we're going to have to pull this around to retrograde. And we're going to have to do a re-entry burn. So the temperature here is dropping as of right now. That's noted. Now the temperature is rising. And let's slow this down a bit. Okay, we pick up a nasty spin. That is an incredibly nasty spin. And this is wanting to flip us back around to prograde, which we will accept, actually. At this point, that should, in theory, be fine. Let's definitely take this out of time acceleration. And let's just see about attempting to nose up a bit. But this has a lot of oscillation here, for sure. It really tries to jitter around a lot, but that's what the stabilizers here and here are in theory for. I don't know that they worked all that well, to be honest with you. I'm attempting to nose up, but I think that the jitter is the issue. So I think the best way to go here would, in fact, be to make a bit of a proper plane. Wow, this thing, just tapping it, it has insane amounts of change. Okay. So one thing we could do is we could pull ourselves around with our chute, but I don't think that's actually helpful. Yeah, we're just completely unable to nose up, and these control surfaces, they are trying, but they're not trying very well. Let's pull this back at this point, and let's actually start over a bit from scratch. So what I was thinking is we would have a new craft, and then we would want to change the orientation here, which I know there's a way that you can do that. Is that in here? Configuration, plane. Yes. Okay, so something like that. Now, what I'd like to do is I'd like to put a nose cone on this. So we're going to just flip that guy right on around like that. There we go. And then we're going to put in a fuel tank here, like this. Then I want to have probably some sort of a jet engine here. So a turbojet is not really ideal. We don't want a turbojet engine here. This is a intake. So we could go with a prop. I mean, we definitely could. If we did that, that would go like back here-ish, or we could just put it on the front, right? So that would end up going out over here in a pole configuration, and that would probably be a little bit better for us if we can find the actual angle to attach it here. And I'm not sure such an angle exists, but we could force it by doing this. That's not attached. Okay, so we could do something like that, but it's not positioned exactly the way I want it to be. So, to that end, this is probably not the best way to go. Let's go ahead and position this in a pusher configuration, something like this. And I'd like to maybe increase the size of it a little bit. So that's the electric motor there. And then the blade count, we could definitely take that up to a 3-blade prop. And then I'd like to increase, that's the hub scale. Okay. That's the blade width. Yeah, we could increase the size, something like that, in theory. So obviously, this isn't going to be perfect. And the question is, how fast is this going to actually end up going? Because this might take us a long time to get to our destination. Instead of having this here, I'm going to put in a chute, as we had before. The idea behind the chute is, once we get into the correct position, we pull the chute. And that also is going to constrain our overall craft size down to being something like... This is a little much, I think, still. That's a little too little, though. So something about like that. Then we're going to need wheels for it, right? So that is definitely something that we can do. We can have landing gear here in the center. And that would go about here. I don't think these are retractable, but we can see. And then we could have a second landing gear out over here at about a 30-degree angle, but then I would rotate that to be like that. Then we would mirror it like so. Okay, now what I'd like to do is I'd like to say this doesn't turn, but this one can turn at maybe like a 20 or 25-degree angle, something like that. These are not motored, and that's fine. And I don't expect this to get off the ground right now. Obviously, there are no wings. That's step one. We definitely need to add wings to it. So let's put in some wings here. That is facing the wrong way. Okay. So, I mean, this is going to be too much of wings, I think, but I'd like to bring that around, and we can position it. That's still facing the wrong way. What if we were to rotate it instead of going this way? We were to rotate it this way, about like that. Okay, so this is going to be very wide. This might be too wide for our location. And let's take a look at our center of mass versus center of lift real quick. So we need to go into here. Center of mass is here, and center of lift is here. But this is going to need to be, instead of being fuel, this is going to need to be, this is seamless edges. I don't actually care about that. I want, instead of this being fuel, I want this to be battery. Okay. And then we could put in like a solar panel up top. Now, I don't expect this to still get off the ground. Well, actually, it might with the ramp. We'll see how viable it actually is to fly. But you can see here, we definitely want to bring these wings back, and that changed their orientation awkwardly. Okay. Give me that center of lift. Okay. That might be fine. We'll see. I do want to put in a stabilizer up top. So we're going to put in a fin up here. And that's not what I wanted to grab. Undo that. Thank you very much. I want to grab this guy, and we're going to do something kind of like that, except this is going to need to be approximately like that. Okay, so this is not probably going to work. I'm bad at planes, but for now, this is fine. We can't move these control surfaces over this way, it would seem. Okay, so I'm guessing that these fins are not going to be very effective, and we could put battery into these wings as well, if we really wanted to. So that's certainly noted. And then as far as the solar panels go, I do want to have some amount of solar on this, so it would go like here. And then I'd like to put it like up above the wing, ideally. It's placing it inside of the wing, awkwardly enough. I mean, we could place it like here, I suppose. I wanted it on the wing, though. Okay, let's get rid of it for now. Let's see if this thing even gets off the ground. I kind of doubt it. For one thing, this is very narrow together. I think we're going to have a lot of instability issues side to side. So let's see what this looks like. We're going to do this from the village runway, and the question is, do we fit? Apparently we do. And of course we're facing the wrong way. So we're going to want to push ourselves forward a little bit here, but this prop is probably not going to be very effective. It is pulling us. Okay. Well, first things first. Let's pull this back. Let's get this turned around in the editor here. So we can see that we are definitely facing backwards. So I want to grab this part, and I want to flip the whole thing around. About like that. And then we're going to need to get it angled correctly, which is kind of like that, I guess. It's not exact, I suppose, but it's pretty close. And then we need to grab our electric motor here, and we need to invert the direction of this. So we need to invert that, because this is in a push configuration. Okay, so we'll put this out on the runway again, and let's see what that does in terms of how it settles here. That's not too bad. Now, the actual acceleration of this is going to be incredibly slow. Oh, these are angled a little differently than I thought that they were. We're still going backwards here. Okay, so I guess this is still inverted. Okay. Let's pull that back, and there are a few more changes that I want to make here. First off, This being here doesn't actually make a lot of sense. So I'm going to grab it and I'm going to put it here and here. And then I'm going to actually put landing legs on the back of this, which is kind of a crazy thing to do, but I'm going to do it regardless. So we're going to put piston legs back here, about like this. And then I'm going to duplicate that 4x, like so. And I want to change the angling on them to be about like that. And then we're going to have to change the directionality on them about like that. Now, these legs here, or rather, not legs. Hang on. Is that correct? That's correct. I want to select these guys now. And I guess that's about the best we can do for the moment. Sure. So that seems fine for now. Let's put that out on the runway, and let's see how that goes. This might still be inverted. We'll see. Yeah, we're being pulled this direction. So that is absolutely noted. Let's pull that back, and I want to adjust the power of those engines as well. They're not very powerful, these, or rather the motors here. So these motors need to be re-inverted. And the actual size of it can be brought up a bit. So we'll put this at about 60% size. And then this guy here, we can increase the hub scale a bit to be about like that. Sure, that'll do. We're at a crazy angle here, but that's fine. Okay, so we want to reverse the blades. There we go. Cool. So now the question is this going to propel us forward at a reasonable speed? We'll find out. It is still pulling us backwards. We could put these into another configuration, into a polar configuration, which is clearly what they're intended to be. I think the reason why this is happening, though, is I saw an option in here for auto reverse motor. I'm going to turn that off. And we'll see what happens here. It's still pulling us this way. So how do we get this into a pusher configuration? There's definitely going to be a way to do that. Because I do want this pusher here. I mean, we could just flip it, I suppose, into a polar configuration, but the problem is these wings are sloped. So having it be in a pusher configuration makes a lot more sense unless we want to counteract this angling, right? Which I'd rather not do. That's why I'd like to have them back here. About here or so. So that would be nice to have them there, but I'm not convinced that this is a viable position for them if we can't figure out how to get them flipped. So this is just reversing the blades here. So it must be in the motor that we need to get this turned. So input is throttle, and I'd like to invert that. Invert on mirror. Let's try turning that off. And let's see what happens with that. That may or may not work. Now, as far as the apoapsis being higher, that's something that we're going to do as a different stage here. Okay, so it is clear here that our propellers are counteracting each other. They're going in opposite directions now, causing us to have this turn. I turned it off, and I'm just waiting for them to lose speed here so we can verify that. They're spinning the same way, which is clearly the opposite of what we want. Okay, so we're going to pull that back again. Cool. And we're going to grab these motors. I want to invert on mirror. So this one is inverted, or is not inverted. This one is inverted. So if this is correct, then we need to switch them. Or if this is correct, that's great, actually. But if this is incorrect, then we need to switch them. Yeah, it's pulling us backwards. So now, in theory, what we need to do is simply switch this motor. This one needs to be inverted, which means that this one needs to not be inverted. I think, if I'm understanding this correctly. Yes, we're now going forward. Fantastic. Now the question is, does this thing make it into the air, and can it be flown? We'll find out. I do intend to have a kick stage in the back here that is going to kick in like as soon as we're in the air, and it's the idea behind it is to get our apoapsis up high enough, because we are going to need a lot more apoapsis than this prop system is going to be capable of gaining for us. But let's see if this even flies. That's question one. So let's get down to the end here. We're going to need a lot more airspeed than this. That's for sure. Well, that was awkward. It survived surprisingly well. So there's that. So I think the core issue right now is I'm not actually seeing... Hang on. I'm not seeing these control surfaces move. Was that the problem with our rocket design? Hang on. That would make a lot of sense. I'm going to save this as plain. It was definitely an interesting experiment, but I think that our issue is the control surfaces are not actually tied to an axis here. This is tied to roll only. And I'd like it to be on pitch and roll. Okay, so let's load up the barge lander. Let's grab these control surfaces. This is on pitch. This is on yaw. This is on pitch. And this is on yaw. This is on pitch 1, and this is on pitch -1. Okay, let's put this out on the alley pad real quick here. Oh, right. We need to change the length of these wings. Just like that. Let's put this out on the alley pad, and I want to take a quick peek at what our control surfaces are doing. Okay, so they're all on pitch right now. Nothing is on yaw. But they are moving. So that's something. So if we were to pull this back then, yeah, I'm thinking that the issue there was that our control surfaces weren't actually controlling. So these here are currently on pitch, as are these. I want these guys. Well, the issue is actually that this is cloned like that. So we're going to need to do something like this, where these are on pitch, and then we would have a fin back here to stabilize us. Like that. We would need to turn this guy around. So I'd like to pull this something like that or so. Turn this around, not like that. Like this. There we go. And then this, in theory, as I completely get rid of our rotation, this would then be on yaw. I'd like to raise this up a little bit more and give ourselves a little bit of additional stabilizing there, in theory. So this control surface would need to be on... Can I select the control surface, please? Apparently not. It seems to be selecting the wing. Why would it put the control surface there? Okay. There's supposed to be a control surface here. I'm not able to select it right now. But let's put this on the alley pad, and let's see what this does real quick. This control surface is not moving at all. Okay. So let's pull that back. And the question is, how can we work with that control surface? Do we need to work with the control surface? Is another question. Let's just launch this and see what happens real quick. Okay, so we know we need to be going 75 degrees, and we know we need to be going about 60 degrees. Cool. Let's go. So you can see that fin is definitely pulling us off axis here. No doubt about that. And I think this is because we just don't have any stabilization there. Like, this is definitely not ideal. Definitely not ideal. So let's pull that back real quick here. It is time to put a cut in here, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. And next episode, I think we've definitely hit on something here. I'm pretty sure that our control surfaces were just not functioning. So I would like this to not be single axis, pitch and roll here. And then this control surface here, I don't know. It feels like there isn't actually a control surface there. So the control surface would need to be like this. Right? Hang on. I've messed up our rotation a bit. What way do we need to go? Like that. And then we would need to go like that. Okay. So the control surface is now back here. So that's all well and good. I'd like to bring this guy back to be something kind of like this. And there's now a control surface back here, and that's on yaw only. Okay. So now, in theory, we have pitch, yaw, and roll controls, all from our control surfaces. Like I said, it's time to put a cut in here, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. And next episode, we're going to try this again. I think that our control surfaces just weren't mapped correctly, so that is definitely a lesson learned. You can leave your offerings to the engagement gods in the form of likes, comments, subscribes, and bell ringings, and a very special thank you to all of the channel members for making this video possible, including ALS Gamer, Atala, Andy Magar, Ali Lee, Dark Horse Xenocyte, Hiro Marutsu, Upper Cumberland Gamers, Nick Smarty, Dimitri H, Punching the Microphone, The Lounge STL, and all the rest. And of course, you. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to support the channel, you can click the join button down below the video, and as always, I will see you all next time.